Hey guys, tonight we journey not into a grand empire or famous battlefield, but down a damp cobblestone alley lit by one flickering greasy flame, because tonight you are the lantern bearer, a person tasked with the noble, thankless duty of wandering through the medieval night carrying a tallow soaked torch, pretending you're not scared of everything rustling just out of sight. You carry light in a world afraid of the dark, and that makes you both necessary and deeply suspicious. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. And let me know in the comments where you're tuning in from and what time it is for you. It's always fascinating to see who's joining us from around the world. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You wake up in the smallest possible room, legally considered a room. A sloped ceiling presses down on one side. The blanket is a burlap sack. The pillow is also a burlap sack, a damp one. You slept next to your lantern, not because you're sentimental, but because the last time you left it unattended, a neighbor's chicken tried to eat it. This chicken is still missing feathers. The air smells like damp stone, cold ash, and a faint undertone of disappointment. Outside, bells are tolling the 8th hour, which is either sunrise or your landlord's idea of a joke. You don't know anymore. Timekeeping is approximate here. You throw on your tunic, which is stiff from last night's soot, and what you hope is just soot. It's one of two you own. The other is currently being used as a curtain by your neighbor, who didn't ask. You step outside, and the morning light is just beginning to break over the rooftops, which means your shift ended approximately 2 hours ago. The lantern in your hand is still warm. The handle, wrapped in old linen, is charred black and smells faintly like goat cheese, though you're reasonably sure no goats were involved in the making of this lantern. Probably. Being a lantern bearer, as you now know firsthand, is not a glamorous job. There are no feasts in your honor, no tapestries, no groupies. No one even knows your name unless the light goes out. Then suddenly everyone knows it, and they shout it, usually followed by things like, "You doomed us all," or "This is exactly how the plague starts." The townspeople don't see you as a helpful presence. They see you as a walking omen, a fire hazard with legs, a mobile reminder that something must be wrong if we need you to see at night, which is fair. In this town, darkness is not just the absence of sunlight, it's when things happen. Mysterious things, supernatural things, things involving goats again, for some reason. You trudge down the narrow alleyways, retracing your steps from the night before. Your lantern is still half full of tallow, which you made yourself by boiling down sheep fat and despair. It flickers against the damp walls, casting shadows that twitch and slither like they have opinions about you, which, according to your great aunt, they probably do. She believed shadows could carry curses, especially when cast by someone of uncertain parentage, which you now suspect was a dig at your father, who once tried to marry a goose. Historians still argue whether lantern bearers were ever formally trained or simply handed a flame and told, "Good luck. Try not to get devoured by the night." Evidence is murky. Some towns may have had guilds. Others just grabbed the least popular resident and gave them a stick of fire. You duck under a low wooden beam, the lantern grazing it by inches. It's blackened from years of soot and scorch marks. You're not the first bearer to miscalculate clearance. Some towns believed a scorched beam was lucky. Others thought it was a sign that the lantern bearer was cursed. or possibly the Antichrist. Superstitions varied, but either way, you got blamed for it. As the streets grow brighter, your shift technically ends. You are supposed to go home, rest, maybe apply some pig fat balm to your hands for the burns, and mentally prepare to do it all over again tonight. But someone stops you, a short, elderly woman with suspiciously strong arms and a chicken under one arm. It's that chicken. She wants to know why you walked past her house 3 times last night. Was it a sign? She whispers. You say you were just patrolling. She nods slowly, clearly not believing you, and drops a potato in your hand. You don't ask why. You never ask. Down the street, a child runs up and tells you that her brother woke up screaming because he saw your light pass by his window. He said your flame was green, she says. That's not normal. Your tallow is supposed to burn a lovely off-white, occasionally orange. Green means something else. Sulfur, possibly. Or ghosts. Or maybe he just needs less cheese before bed. You finally reach the storage shed where you'll leave your lantern for the day. Inside, there's a row of hooks and shelves, a strong smell of wax and singed wood, and 2 other lantern bearers already napping. One is snoring into a bag of coal. The other is muttering the Lord's Prayer backward, just for fun. You don't ask questions. Before you hang your lantern up, you give it one last look. The flame flickers, then settles. You mutter the traditional phrase, stay lit, stay safe. Not because you believe it works, but because the last guy who didn't say it was found upside down in a bucket of eels. Coincidence? Possibly. But also possibly not. You finally stumble back home, the light behind your eyes slowly fading. Tonight, you'll do it all again. But for now, you collapse onto your itchy burlap bed, the chicken scratching at your door, the faint scent of burnt sheep fat clinging to your skin. Your eyes close. You dream of light and shadows that follow you just a little too closely. And somewhere, someone is already blaming you for the weather. You wake up far too soon to a noise you can't quite place. Is it the chicken again? The bells? A burglar? Nope. It's your neighbor arguing, loudly, with her own reflection in a cracked window. You roll over. Your shoulder clicks. Your entire spine protests. Your arms smell like warm candle grease. And congratulations, it's almost sunset, which means it's nearly time to light the lantern again. You pull on your tunic, still faintly crunchy, and step outside. The street already buzzes with people rushing home, shopkeepers nailing shutters shut like darkness might sue them for negligence, and one man screaming about potatoes. Again, he does this every night. No one knows why. You trudge toward the town square where the lanterns are distributed. They don't let you keep yours at home anymore because of the barn incident, which wasn't technically your fault. You tripped, the goat panicked, the flame jumped. There may have been screaming, but again, not your fault. Your supervisor, a man with 2 teeth and the personality of a damp rag, hands you tonight's lantern with the usual warning. Don't let it die, or the town might. Classic motivational speech. The lantern is heavy, the handle sticky, and you can already tell the wick is going to be a problem. It's tilting like it has unresolved trauma. As you walk, a passing priest blesses your lantern. Not you, just the flame. You're basically the human equivalent of a candle holder. But here's where things get weird. People really believe this job changes you. Not metaphorically, literally. There's a popular rumor that prolonged exposure to carrying light through darkness opens your second sight. Whatever that is. Some say you can see ghosts. Others say you can hear thoughts, One lady swears you predicted her husband's gout. Truth is, you once told her it would rain, and it did, 2 days later. It's now considered a prophecy. You're not even allowed near her goats anymore in case you curse their milk. And then there are the ghost stories. Every town has them. A flickering lantern near the well? That's the spirit of a drowned baker. A sudden extinguishing flame near the church? Clearly the work of shadow demons. And the worst? The infamous belief that some lantern bearers don't cast shadows at all. You've tried looking. You definitely have a shadow. A very average one. Kind of wobbly. Looks a bit like a sad bird if you squint. But once, your flame went out near the eastern wall, and a group of children swore they saw a man made of smoke following you. They now refuse to speak to you, which honestly has been nice. The reality? You're just a person with a stick, a flame, and a questionable life path. Historians still argue whether lantern bearers were selected for reliability or just randomly assigned by people who wanted to go to bed early. Some documents suggest it was a punishment job reserved for vagrants, drunkards, or tax dodgers. Others hint it was seen as noble, even spiritual. You've never felt less noble in your life. As the sun dips lower, you light your lantern with a sulfur match. The spark sizzles, the wick flares, the flame dances to life, casting long shadows down the cobbled street. And here's the problem. This is the part of the evening where people begin to notice you. A child watches you from a window with eyes too wide. An old man mutters something and crosses himself. A woman clutches her necklace and looks away. No one says thank you. No one offers bread, just stares and whispers. You're the ghost shepherd now, the light walker, the accidental omen. Someone once claimed your flame flickered 3 times in a row, and the next day, a cat died. It wasn't even a local cat. It was visiting, but the story stuck. Now every time your lantern flickers, someone glares at you like you just cursed their corn. You turn down the alley behind the tannery. The smell is apocalyptic. The light reflects off puddles you sincerely hope are just water. You pass a man relieving himself against a wall who nods politely. At least he treats you like a person. Then again, he thinks you're a holy man. Which brings up yet another strange belief, that lantern bearers can carry confessions, like mobile priests. You don't remember signing up for this, but occasionally, a stranger will press their lips close to your flame and mutter something about stealing pies or hating their cousin. You never know what to do in these moments, so you nod solemnly and say something wise sounding like, "The flame sees all." It usually works. Once someone gave you cheese. You walk the perimeter of the market square, lantern held high. The wind picks up. The flame dances dangerously. You whisper the usual prayer, not because you believe in it, but because last time you didn't. The flame blew out, and the butcher's windows all shattered mysteriously 10 minutes later. Coincidence? Sure, but you're not taking chances. You spot another lantern bearer across the square. It's Bart. You don't like Bart. No one does. His lantern has fancy metalwork and a handle made of leather. He walks like he's guarding the king's treasure. Last week, he told a group of children he was descended from the original Flame Brothers, a mythical order of magical light keepers. You're 99% sure he made that up, but he got a free bowl of soup from it. Your flame crackles and for a moment glows blue. That's not normal. You stop. Hold your breath. It goes back to orange. Okay? Crisis averted. Probably. You keep walking, but now every step feels watched. You glance behind you, just shadows. Lots of them. One of them might have blinked. You don't mention it, because if a lantern bearer admits to seeing things, they're either promoted to mystic or demoted to leper. It depends on the mayor's mood. Last year's bearer claimed to see a spirit wolf made of fog. He now sells onions in a distant village. No one visits. You turn the final corner. Your loop is nearly complete. Ahead, an old woman waves you down. She insists her house is cursed. She needs you to walk past it 5 times to cleanse the aura. You do it. Not because you believe her, but because she makes incredible jam and she pays in jars. You pass her house 5 times. She spits over your lantern, says a word you don't recognize, and hands you a jar labeled Mystery Plum. You nod respectfully. It's probably not plum, but it is payment. Your feet ache. Your hand is cramping. The flame is burning low. The streets are quiet now. The town is asleep. And you somehow are still not. You return to your alley. The lantern holder is waiting. You lower the flame into its slot. It sputters, then dies. You exhale. You lived another night, and no one burst into flames. So, success? You wake up again, groggy and coated in a fine layer of what might be soot, or possibly last night's dreams refusing to leave. There's a faint clanging in your ears, the kind that could either be bells ringing or just your body trying to warn you that you're aging rapidly. You roll out of bed, stand too quickly, and hit your head on the low beam. For the 3rd day in a row, the beam, for the record, is winning. Outside, the morning smells like boiled cabbage and resignation. As you shuffle toward the pump to splash your face, 3 things happen simultaneously. A chicken tries to bite your ankle. Someone yells, "Witch light." And you remember you left your only decent shoes by the tallow vat. Again, you are not a morning person, nor, as it turns out, an evening person. You are, officially, a person who only functions while holding a small flame and being mildly distrusted. You head to the square to return last night's lantern and find a small crowd gathered. They part slightly when they see you, not out of respect, but the way one might move aside for a leaking pipe. At the center is a man, wearing far too many belts for any practical reason, holding a scroll and yelling about taxes on tallow. Again, this is the 4th new tallow tax in 3 months. Evidently, someone in the mayor's office believes you're hoarding candle supplies in a secret underground bunker. You are not. You're storing them in your friend Gregor's goat shed, which is totally different. And it gets worse. There's a growing theory, wildly popular with the town's more dramatic residents, that lantern bearers are causing a tallow crisis. The logic goes something like more lanterns, shells more tallow, shells less tallow, for rich people to rub on their dry elbows. It's not a good theory, but it is loud, and that's enough. Yet historians still argue. You mutter to yourself as you watch the crowd grumble. Whether the great melt of 1382 was economic, magical, or just a really hot summer, no one hears you. You like it that way. Your friend Martha appears beside you, clutching a small jar of goose grease. She looks tired. She always looks tired. Being the town's only candle maker will do that. She whispers that people are blaming you for the rising wax prices. Apparently, someone claimed your lantern has been burning twice as bright lately. You look at your hand. It's just as burnt as usual. But public opinion is a slippery thing. One minute, you're the barely tolerated flame guy. The next, you're the town's economic scapegoat and probable fire demon. Again, you duck away from the crowd and head to the candle shop. Martha follows, muttering under her breath about idiots who think soot causes crop failure. Inside, the smell of beeswax and bad decisions hits you immediately. Shelves sag under the weight of misshapen candles, some tall, some stubby, one shaped suspiciously like the mayor. Martha sits you down and lights a small test wick. She's been experimenting with flame temperaments. Supposedly, certain blends burn more gently depending on your personality. You tried one labeled melancholic phlegmatic last week. It hissed at you and wouldn't go out. Tonight's batch is labeled quietly furious. As she dips wicks, she tells you another bizarre belief that's been going around, that lantern bearers are born under a cursed star, that you're all fated to burn out, literally or metaphorically, before age 35. You're 27. Great. You ask where this idea came from. She says it started after the last lantern bearer tripped into the town fountain and screamed, "The fire wants me back." For the record, he also thought pigeons were spies. Still, the rumor stuck. You hold up one of her experimental candles. It's lavender colored and smells faintly of guilt. You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. We're trying things. That night, as you light your lantern, the sky rumbles. Not quite thunder, more like indigestion. You walk your route, flame held steady, eyes scanning the shadows that flicker and shift just outside the light's edge. Someone's watching you. You know that feeling. It prickles along your shoulders, slides down your spine. It's not the usual villagers peeking from behind curtains. This is something else. You turn quickly, but there's nothing. Just fog. Thick, oddly scented fog. You keep walking, pretending you don't feel the air press closer. Then you see it. A figure standing at the far edge of your lantern's glow. Tall, cloaked, still. You pause. Lovely night for a stroll, you call, because what else are you going to say? The figure doesn't move. You take a step forward. The flame jumps. A breeze rises out of nowhere, strong enough to send sparks spinning. Then, just as suddenly, the figure vanishes. You blink. Once, twice. Behind you, a window creaks open. Did your lantern just whisper? You don't respond. You just keep walking. Faster now. Later, as you return to the storage shed, Bart is already there. He's polishing his lantern with smug intensity. You tell him what you saw. He laughs and says, "The fog likes to play tricks on amateurs." You remind him, "You've been doing this for 6 years." He says, "Exactly." You fantasize briefly about stuffing his lantern with spoiled lard. Before you leave, you notice something odd. One of the lanterns, old, rusty, half broken, has been set aside with a note. Do not use. Light calls to it. You do not like that. You leave quickly, shoes squelching, the smell of goose grease still clinging to your sleeve. Back in bed, you stare at the ceiling, the flame still dancing behind your eyelids. You sleep, you dream of whispers in the fog, and of your lantern burning blue. You wake to find soot on your pillow. Again, either you've been sleep lanterning, which is a real concern apparently, or your ceiling is leaking ash. You choose not to investigate. Some mysteries are better left to monks and people with sturdier insurance policies. Outside, the world is quietly unraveling. The cobblestones are damp. The baker is arguing with the butcher about whose meat pies were hexed last week. The town crier is weeping softly into a trumpet. All standard fare. You shuffle past them with your usual lantern shuffle. It's a distinct gait, perfected over months of walking, with one arm extended and the other hand hovering anxiously near the wick. Your right shoulder now permanently leans slightly forward, like it's always apologizing. Today you're early. A mistake. You try to sneak into the lantern shed, but old Liza catches you. She guards the lanterns with the same intensity most people reserve for crown jewels or moldy cheese wheels. She looks at you like you might ignite the whole place with a sneeze. I've got a new route for you, she says. Church Row. You pause. That can't be right. Church Row is haunted. Not officially, of course, but unofficially, it's the town's most ghost ridden alley. According to local legend, it's where Sister Heloise saw the Virgin Mary, and also a flying soup ladle, in the same night, possibly the same moment. You argue, but Liza raises one eyebrow. Just one. It's enough. So now you're standing at the mouth of Church Row with a lantern that flickers, like it's reconsidering its entire existence. The alley smells like incense and mildew. There's a faint humming sound. No one is around, which is somehow worse than if it were filled with cultists or pigeons. You take a step. The flame dims. You take another. The flame strengthens. Interesting. You proceed. The lantern glowing with a soft, buttery light. You pass the old chapel, now half collapsed. A small statue of a saint watches you through a broken window. You nod at it, just in case. The air is thicker here. The fog feels sentient. And then the candle starts changing color. Not a lot, just a hint. A whisper of violet at the edges. Your first instinct is to panic, obviously. Violet is not a sanctioned flame color. The flame is supposed to be one of three colors: orange, fine; red, bit hot; or white. Someone overdid the lard. Violet means something else. Historians still argue what exactly it means. Some believe it's a sign of divine presence. Others say it's a sulfuric imbalance caused by bad soap. A fringe theory suggests it signals the proximity of other realms. None of these are comforting. You stop. Hold the lantern closer to your face. The flame dances, but doesn't explain itself. From the corner of your eye, something moves. You spin around, just shadows. Long ones, crawling like spilled ink along the chapel wall. But one of them lingers, just slightly longer than the others, as if it forgot it wasn't real. You blink and it's gone. You walk faster now. The flame flutters with each step, like it too would rather be anywhere else. Halfway down the alley, a door creaks open. A young woman peeks out. She's pale, wrapped in a shawl that smells of dried rosemary and panic. You're the bearer? She asks. You nod. Then you'll understand, she whispers, and thrusts something into your hand. It's a bundle, wrapped in oilcloth. Heavy. You look down and unwrap it slightly. Inside is a lantern, old, ornate, and humming faintly. It feels warm. Too warm. You mustn't light it, she says, eyes wide. It's already lit. That's nonsense. There's no visible flame. You tell her this. She looks at you like you've just failed a very important test. Don't let them touch, she says. If your lantern and that one cross light. She doesn't finish, just shuts the door. You're now holding a second lantern. One you can't light. One that may already be lit. Internally, spiritually, unclear. You tuck it inside your cloak. It hums louder. Your other lantern flares briefly, then dims. You hurry through the rest of Church Row, tossing suspicious glances at every shadow, every cracked window, every statue with slightly too many fingers. Back at the lantern shed, you try to explain what happened. Liza just snorts. You touched the chapel rote, she says. They've been trying to pawn that relic off for years. Gave it to a monk last spring. He went deaf for a week. You ask what you should do with it. Keep it, she says. See what happens. Worst advice you've ever received. But you do it. That night, you walk with two lanterns, one real, one metaphorical. The villagers don't seem to notice. Or maybe they can't see the second one, which is worse. As you pass the bakery, the air goes still. Your regular lantern flickers. The other one glows faintly from within. And in the reflection of the bakery's window, you see it, your shadow. And a second one, just behind you, not moving quite the same way. You don't scream. You keep walking. After all, you're the lantern bearer. People expect you to know what you're doing, even if you absolutely definitely do not. You don't sleep that day. Not really. You lie down, sure, burlap pillow under your head, mystery jam still unopened on your windowsill, but your eyes refuse to close. Every time they do, you see it again. That second shadow. Just a bit off. Just a little too independent. So you lie there, staring at the ceiling beam, wondering if it too might be watching you. At some point, your neighbor starts singing to her goat again. It's off key and deeply emotional. You envy the goat. Eventually, you rise. It's late afternoon. Time to prepare. You try to ignore the second lantern on your shelf. It hasn't moved. That you can see, but it still hums. Not a noise exactly, more like a pressure in the air. The kind you feel behind your eyes. You don't bring it with you tonight. Just your regular lantern, with the slightly chewed handle and that crack near the base. It feels familiar, safe. You whisper the standard prayer before lighting it. Burn clean, burn bright, don't summon anything tonight. The flame flickers, accepts your terms. As you leave your shack, a group of children scatters. One of them throws a rock. It misses you by a generous margin, but hits a laundry line. A sock falls. It lands perfectly on your lantern. You are now carrying a flaming sock. Excellent. You remove it. Carefully. There's a quiet pop as the wool burns off. The sock survived better than expected. You consider wearing it. Down the main street, people are out and about. There's a market tonight. It happens once a month. People sell onions, buttons, and slightly haunted dolls. You once bought a cabbage that whispered. Tonight, there's music. Someone's banging a drum. A man is playing a lute like he's trying to exercise it. And in the middle of it all, the mayor is giving a speech. You don't stop. You've learned. Last time you stood to listen, your lantern cast a shadow that made the mayor's nose look unnaturally long. You were fined. So you pass by quietly. But as you do, you catch something in his speech. And let us not forget the importance of visible light in these dark times. Light which is controlled, licensed, registered. You freeze. Did he just suggest registering light? You glance down at your flame. It dances innocently, like it hasn't just been legislated. Later, Martha confirms your fears. There's talk, she says, wiping soot from her hands, about centralizing lanterns, making them all identical. State issued. You blink, but then people will know whose flame is whose, you say. Exactly, she replies. This is bad. Lanterns are supposed to be slightly unique. You're burned a little to the left. Bart's always smells like pickles. One guy's flame whistles. That individuality, it's part of the charm and the plausible deniability. You're still reeling from this news when it happens. You pass the southern wall, just beyond the smithy, when your lantern flares. Not a flicker, not a sway, a flare. A sudden roaring twist of light that blasts upward, lighting the sky like a beacon. You jump back. The flame steadies, but something's changed. You look down, and the second lantern, The one you left behind is now in your hands. You didn't pick it up. You didn't bring it. But there it is, cool to the touch, humming louder now. You glance around. No one's watching. Not yet. You consider tossing it in the well. But you've heard stories about what happens to cursed objects in town wells. They come back, angry and wet. You keep walking. As you do, the second lantern begins to glow, not with fire, but with light. Cold, blue-white, like moonlight trapped in glass. It casts no heat, no flicker, just steady, pale radiance. Your regular lantern flinches. The flame pulls away from it like two magnets in opposition. And then the light from the second lantern forms a shape, a circle. It spins slowly in the air, hovering above the lantern mouth. Inside the circle, symbols, letters, shapes you don't know. You stop in the street, dead still. And that's when Bart shows up. Of course. He's got his polished leather handle, his smug expression, his I know Latin aura. He takes one look at the floating circle of light and says, "You summoned something, didn't you?" "I walked," you reply. "Poorly," he says. You resist the urge to throw the lantern at his smug, pickled face. Then something shifts. The symbol stops spinning. The circle contracts. The light pulses, once, twice, 3 times. And then it splits. One beam shoots up into the sky, vanishing into the clouds. The other, straight down into the ground. There's a low rumble, a vibration in your feet, a sound like someone tuning a giant violin made of regret. And then silence. The lantern dims. Just like that, the circle disappears. Bart blinks. That's new. You stare at the lantern, now humming softly again. He reaches for it. You slap his hand away. "Mine," you say, like a toddler guarding a toy. Or a lantern possibly linked to an interdimensional rift. Either way, you finish your route in silence, every step echoing louder than it should, every shadow clinging closer. You don't tell anyone else. Not yet, because now you have 2 lanterns. One burns, the other does something else, and you're starting to wonder if it picked you. You wake in the late morning with both lanterns beside you. One is warm, familiar, slightly greasy. The other is silent, cool, and pulsing faintly like a beetle, pretending it's not glowing. You stare at them for a while, weighing your life choices. When you signed up to carry a stick of fire through medieval darkness, you did not anticipate interdimensional symbology, or unsolicited hauntings, or Bart. But here you are, still upright, still flame adjacent, still underpaid. You consider leaving the glowing lantern in a sack and hurling it into the river. Then you remember the last time someone threw a cursed object into the river. The fish all started swimming in circles and the ferryman lost his eyebrows. You decide against it. Instead, you carry both lanterns to Martha. She's elbow deep in beeswax. When you arrive, she doesn't look up. "You've got ghost face," she says. "I brought a thing," you say, and place the lantern on the counter. She stops mid-stir. Her expression changes from Monday to emergency council meeting. She pokes it. It hums. She pokes it again. It purrs. "Why is it purring?" you ask. "Because," she says slowly, "this isn't a lantern. It's a vessel." You blink. "For what?" She shrugs. "Hope it's not feelings." You explain the symbol circle, the light beams, the vibrating violin sound. She nods through all of it, then says, "Historians still argue whether vessels like this were made, found, or summoned, but everyone agrees on one thing. They don't like being ignored." You look at the lantern. It seems fine with being ignored. "It's glowing more now," you say. "It does that when it's deciding," she replies. "Deciding what?" "Who you belong to." You swallow. Martha pours a thick stream of wax into a mold shaped like a frog. You should talk to Gregory. You mean Gregory the hermit who lives in a hole under the abbey and eats moss? Mm-hmm, she says. He used to be a lantern bearer. You stare at her. No one told me that. No one tells you anything, she says kindly. You're just the guy with the light. You find Gregory exactly where she said he'd be, under the abbey, behind a door made of old fence posts in theological regret. He greets you with wild eyes and a piece of celery. I've been waiting for you, he says, then adds, well, for someone, possibly a talking horse. He gestures for you to sit on a pile of hay. You do. He lights a candle with his fingernail. You choose not to ask. You place the second lantern in front of him. He doesn't touch it, he just stares. Then, it woke up, didn't it? You nod. He whistles low and long. Most of them sleep, quiet, waiting. But once in a generation, he trails off. Once in a generation what? You ask. They pick, he says, and his voice sounds like it's echoing off bones. Pick what? He looks you dead in the eye. The bearer? You blink. I'm already a lantern bearer. He laughs, a deep, dusty sound. You're a light bearer. This is something else. Something older. You're not carrying fire. You're carrying invitation. You don't like the sound of that at all. Gregory leans in. Tell me, did you feel anything when the beam went up? You nod. And when the beam went down? You nod again. He closes his eyes. Then it saw both. Both what? Above and below. That's vague and terrifying. He smiles. Correct? You ask what you should do. He hands you a coin. It's old. Smooth. Warm. Flip this next time it glows. That's it? It worked for me, he says, scratching his chin. Until the badger dream. You do not ask. That night, the town is quiet. Too quiet. Even the usual plague or opera rehearsal background noise is absent. You light your regular lantern. It flares obediently. You hold the second lantern. It glows faintly. No fire, just light, like moonbeams whispering secrets. You walk your route. Past the baker, asleep on a sack of flour. Past the inn, someone singing about trousers. Past Bart, who pretends not to notice you. He's added a third buckle to his lantern. You don't comment. You reach the eastern wall, the place where it first glowed. You stop. Take out the coin. Flip it. It lands in your palm. The face shows a flame. Immediately the lantern pulses. Light bursts upward and downward, just like before, but this time slower, more deliberate. The circle appears again, but this time the symbols arrange themselves into something almost readable. You squint. One of them looks like your name, kind of. Another looks like a chicken. Then, movement. From the upward beam, a shimmer descends. From the downward one, mist rises. They meet in the middle and form a shape. It's small, fuzzy, glowing. It looks like a cat, or a loaf of bread with eyes, or possibly a tiny fire demon in a very good mood. It purrs, just like the lantern. You kneel. It hops into your lap and begins to glow. The second lantern dims, and then you hear it, a voice, not loud, not scary, just present. Thank you, it says. You blink. The creature blinks back. Then it vanishes. The lantern dims to silence. The street is empty again. You're alone. Sort of, because now the flame in your regular lantern is burning a little differently. And when you walk, your shadow is back to normal. But the light, it hums, like it remembers something, like it knows your name. The next morning, you wake up feeling slightly brighter, not in the metaphorical sense. Your actual skin appears to have a faint glow, subtle but concerning. You stand by the window, squint at your reflection in a bucket of water, and mutter, "Please don't be permanent." The water doesn't respond, probably for the best. You throw on your tunic, which now carries the unmistakable scent of wax, soot, and mild apprehension. As you move to the door, the regular lantern clinks gently on the table. The second one sits beside it, quiet, still, not humming, not glowing, just waiting. Like a cat pretending it doesn't care. You carry both. Outside, the day feels too clean. The streets are freshly swept. People nod at you politely. One man even says, "Good morning," which is deeply suspicious. You know something's off when the baker gives you free bread without glaring. You check it for curses. It's just bread. Possibly rye. Possibly destiny. At the lantern shed, Liza doesn't question your extra lantern. She just raises one eyebrow and points at a different hook. "Special objects go there," she says. You blink. "There's a hook just for special objects?" "There's a hook for everything," she says grimly, before returning to polishing something that might be a skull or a moldy gourd. Tonight, you're not assigned to a regular route. You're assigned to the hill. You try to protest, but Liza hands you a small scroll that says, "Bearer of Dual Flame, report to Lantern Hill by twilight. May your shadows be brief and your footing firm. Office of Municipal Arcane Safety, Temporary Division." You stare at it. "This is a thing now?" Liza shrugs. "It is when the mayor reads one bad prophecy." You hike up Lantern Hill just as the sun sinks behind the trees. It's not really a hill, more of a politely sloped mound with delusions of grandeur. At the top stands an old wooden platform, formerly used for very public speeches and very questionable marriages. Now it's where you're supposed to witness the convergence, whatever that means. You light your regular lantern. It burns clean, orange, and steady. You lift the second lantern. Nothing. No hum, no glow, just quiet. You wait. The wind picks up. Fog creeps in from the trees, and then a third flame appears, out of nowhere, hanging in midair, pale blue, flickering softly. You step back. The flames, your orange one, the silent vessel, and this new wild one, begin to circle each other. Not physically, just in presence. You feel them shift. A triangle of energy. A triangle that hums. You whisper, "Is this normal?" From the fog, a voice answers, "Define normal." You spin. A woman stands at the base of the hill, wrapped in a cloak made of mismatched fabric and moss. Her hair is full of twigs. Her eyes look like they've seen at least 2 timelines and 1 bakery fire. "I am the interim flamekeeper," she says. You nod slowly. "Of course you are." She climbs the hill effortlessly, despite wearing sandals made entirely of spoons. "You've drawn a triangle," she says, peering at the lanterns. "That means the gate is interested." "Which gate?" She smiles. "Exactly." You wish someone would start using nouns properly. She reaches into her sleeve and pulls out a scroll. It's blank. She holds it over the blue flame. Symbols appear, glowing white. "You're being offered an alignment," she says. "Not a burden, a role." "I already have a role," you protest. "I carry light. Now you are the light," she says. "Or at least part of it. A dim part, but still important." She hands you the scroll. "It's your route now." You read it. It's a list of names, places, feelings. One entry just says, "Regret, mild." She explains, "You'll still walk the streets, but now you'll walk between them too." "You want me to be a, what, light emissary?" She shrugs. "It's either that, or let Bart do it." You clutch the scroll like it's a lifeline. "Fine," you say, "but I want hazard pay." She smiles. Your payment is already coming. She gestures behind you. You turn. The second lantern glows again. Soft, steady, familiar. Next to it, the blue flame has disappeared. But in its place is a small object. You lean closer. It's a badge, made of silver, inscribed with the symbol you now recognize as your name. Sort of. Loosely. Through the lens of three ancient dialects and one enthusiastic bird. You pin it to your tunic. It burns a little. You don't mind. Back in town, you walk with a new gait. Confident, curious, mildly terrified. You pass windows that close just a beat later than usual. Hear whispers that sound like your name. See cats following you with unblinking eyes. You're no longer just the guy with the flame. You're part of something now. Something bigger than goats and socks and Bart's smug little lantern straps. You're a bearer of light, of choice, of possibly terrible consequences. But you walk anyway, because that's what you do. Tonight, you walk differently. Not faster, not slower, just with awareness. Like every cobblestone has a name. Like every flicker in your lantern is part of a conversation you're not entirely invited to, but still expected to attend. Your badge clicks softly as you move. The second lantern hums against your side, not glowing, just there. Present. Watchful. Comforting in a vaguely unsettling way. You reach the north end of town, where the wind always smells like turnips and mild despair. This is the edge of your new route, which according to the scroll, now includes spaces that aren't technically visible. Your first test, the alley that shouldn't exist. It appears only on alternate Tuesdays, or if someone nearby says the phrase penny loaf while sneezing. Conveniently, someone does just that. You step in. The alley stretches longer than it should. The walls breathe slightly. The shadows slither towards your lantern and recoil, like children being told to go outside. You walk slowly. Halfway through, the second lantern glows. Faintly. Blue. And from the bricks, yes, from them, comes a voice. You're early. You freeze. A face pushes out of the wall. Not in a scary way. More in the style of dough poking through a sieve. It's round. Smiling. Slightly translucent. Name's Alvin, it says. Interspatial liaison part-time. You manage a nod. Do you need something? Just checking your credentials, Alvin says, squinting at your badge. Very shiny. Good font. That's a nice sigil. Did you etch it yourself? I was sort of recruited, you say. He nods. Classic. Lanterns always pick the confused ones. Keeps it spicy. He disappears back into the wall with a slurp sound. You do not ask follow-up questions. You walk on. The alley spits you out near the well. The old well. The one no one uses because of the incident. You've heard 5 versions of the incident. They all involve goats. One includes a kazoo. Tonight, something's different. The well is glowing. Not brightly, not dangerously, just invitingly. Your second lantern pulses. You approach, slowly. Peering in, you see no water, just light, and reflected in it, yourself. But not yourself exactly. The reflection is smiling. You are not. The reflection waves. You step back, hard. The well stops glowing. Your lantern dims. You're alone, or at least no longer reflected. You mutter, nope, and continue walking. At the end, people are laughing, drinking. A bard is playing something aggressively hopeful. You pass under the window, just in time to hear. And then the lantern exploded, and the goats grew thumbs. The crowd roars. You sigh. This is your legacy now. You carry light and rumors. Inside the tavern, a group of merchants stares as you pass. One whispers, that's him, the flame warden. Another says, I heard his lantern speaks Latin. A third just says, he looks tired. Fair. Back in the square, Bart stands at a makeshift podium. He's delivering a dramatic speech to a group of children and one adult pretending to be asleep. Shell, and when the cursed lantern tried to burn through the fabric of reality, I stared it down and said, "Not today, Shadows." You walk past him. He stops mid-story. "Ah," he says, "if it isn't the Special Division. Tell me, how's the badge? Still tingling?" You ignore him. He puffs up. "The mayor's been talking about you. Says you might get your own route permanently." He sneers the word permanently like it tastes sour. "Imagine," he says, "a world where one man walks all the realms. One man holds all the lanterns." You stop, slowly turn to him. "That man is not you, Bart." Someone in the back claps. You keep walking. Your route leads you toward the abandoned windmill. It hasn't turned in 20 years, and yet tonight it spins, slowly, against the wind. You pause. Your second lantern glows bright. A low hum builds in your ears. You step closer. The door opens on its own. Inside, dust, feathers, an old shoe, and in the center, a stone pedestal with a lantern. Not yours, not the vessel, a third. This one is humming in a new key. You reach toward it. Your badge glows. The pedestal shifts. You feel the air bend slightly, and then the flame bursts to life. Green, steady, ancient, and you hear, faint, distant, almost song-like, a voice say, "One has walked the path. Two have joined the flame. Three remain." Then silence. The green lantern dims. Your own lantern flares once, and you know there are more of these. Other bearers, other lights, other routes. You are not alone. You are part of something. Back in your shack, you place the second lantern beside your bed. It purrs. You do not question it anymore. Your badge glows faintly in the dark. You close your eyes. Sleep comes gently. The flame keeps watch. You wake up slowly, like a loaf of bread realizing it's being sliced. The light through your window is gray, gentle, and too early. The second lantern still sits by your bed, silent. The regular one, however, is smoking slightly. Again, you don't ask why. You sit up, stretch, and knock over the badge. It lands badge side down and makes the soft chime of something just agreed to a contract. You really hope it was metaphorical. Outside, the streets are unusually full for morning. People huddle in circles, whispering. Some point toward the church bell tower. Others point toward you. One child points toward a cabbage. You don't ask. As you walk into the square, you feel it. That tickle in the air. That sensation that everyone knows something you don't. You hate that feeling. It's the same one you had when you realized the bakery's free samples were booby-trapped with aggressive cheese talk. Martha finds you before the rumors do. "You've been requested," she says, "by the mayor." You blink. "Is this about the goat fire?" "No," she says. "This time it's about the lanterns." You sigh. "Which one?" "All of them." The mayor's office smells like leather, ink, and ambition. He's pacing when you enter, holding a parchment like it personally offended him. He gestures you in. "Ah," he says, "Lantern Individual." "That's not my title." "Is now," he replies. "Listen, what do you know about the prophecy of the four lights?" You blink. "That's not a real thing." He holds up the parchment. "It is now." You squint. The parchment reads, "When four lights burn without fuel, and four bearers walk with no shadow, the gate shall open, and the world shall tremble." You point. "That sounds deeply unideal." "It's exciting," the mayor says, eyes gleaming with the unhinged joy of a man who just discovered a new tax loophole. "People are talking. Light tourism is up. Candle sales have never been better." "I'm not a prophecy," you say. "You're at least two-thirds of one," he insists. "You've got the badge, the blue light, that Loaf cat. Glow loaf is not part of this. You snap, more protectively than you meant to. He shrugs. There's going to be a ceremony, he says. Tonight. Lantern Hill. You'll stand with your two. We'll light a third. Bart will bring the fourth. You recoil. No, absolutely not. Bart should not be near sacred geometry. It's already happening, the mayor says cheerfully. There will be banners. By sunset, you are very prepared to run away forever. But instead, you climb Lantern Hill again, second lantern in hand, badge tucked under your cloak, regular lantern burning faithfully. The wind is stronger tonight. There are people, a crowd, holding torches, humming gently. You recognize neighbors, merchants, several sheep, and one man dressed as a carrot. Tradition, you assume. Bart stands smugly by the platform, holding a lantern with three buckles and a tiny feather boa. You approach. He nods. Nice night for some metaphysical convergence, he says. You grit your teeth. Don't drop anything. The mayor shouts something ceremonial, mostly drowned out by the wind and someone loudly eating an apple. Then, the lights begin. Your regular lantern burns orange. The second glows blue. Bart's hisses lime green, probably from overpolishing, and the mayor lifts the fourth. White flame, barely flickering, old. As they align, something happens. The air stillens. A circle forms again. Cymbals light, that deep hum of ancient choir frogs. The crowd gasps, and then shapes. From each lantern, a tendril of flame rises, four colors, twisting together in a spiral. They hover, blend, speak. Not in words, in meaning. Images fill your mind. Doors, stars, cities made of glass, people made of shadow and laughter. You see the gate, massive, slowly creaking open. Then your badge burns, not painfully, just insistently. You feel pulled, not forward, inward. The light wants something. It shows you four paths. One lit with gold and noise, fame. One cloaked in fog, power. One paved with mirrors, truth. One made of cobblestones, chicken feathers, and burnt socks. Your life. You choose the last. The flames pulse once, then withdraw. The circle collapses. The lights dim. Silence. Someone coughs. The mayor claps. Well, that was excellent. Bart looks vaguely offended. His lantern didn't explode. You walk home slowly. Your badge is warm. Your lanterns are quiet. And in your chest, a strange peace. You didn't open the gate, but you heard it knock and said, not yet. The next day, everything is perfectly normal, which of course is incredibly suspicious. You wake up to silence. No goats fighting, no children screaming, not even Bart polishing his lantern straps aggressively by the fountain. Just birdsong and a faint smell of cinnamon, which may or may not be a trap. Your second lantern lies dormant on the table. It looks innocent, like it didn't help you nearly become the fulcrum of a prophecy last night. You make tea. You sit. You watch the door, half expecting a mob, a scroll, or a speaking loaf of bread. Nothing happens. Eventually, you head out. The town feels tiptoed, like everyone's trying not to startle the air. You spot Martha selling wax frogs, Liza glaring at a broom, and the mayor showing off his commemorative four-light medallion made from recycled spoon handles. People nod at you. Some bow slightly. A child offers you a rock. You accept it. It's a very good rock. Your lantern route has been moved. You're now listed as Special Circumference Support, Perimeter, Wandering, and Light Assurance Division. It means you're supposed to walk the edge of town, constantly, with both lanterns. It's a big promotion. If you like mystery and foot cramps, you start your new route. The perimeter is different. Out here, the shadows feel more deliberate. Trees lean slightly inward. Animals pause as you pass. A crow tries to sell you insurance. You decline. The second lantern hums gently. No dramatic flares, no floating symbols, just a low, purring awareness, like it's taking notes. You reach the old boundary marker, the place where the town once tried to build a wall and gave up after 3 bricks and an argument about measurements. The stones remain, half sunken and covered in moss. Tonight, one of them is missing. In its place, a door, just a door, standing freely. No walls, no hinges, no explanation. You stare at it. The regular lantern flickers. The second one pulses, once, then twice. You feel something stir in your badge, a gentle pull, like static or deja vu. You approach. On the door is a symbol you now recognize, a shape that used to be gibberish, but now looks eerily like your own signature, or someone mimicking your handwriting with better posture. You knock. The door opens inward. You see nothing. Not darkness, not void, just absence. And in that absence, something moves. You hear it, not with your ears, but in your breath. A voice that says, "You chose the cobblestones." You nod. You walk the seam. You whisper, "Do I have a choice?" The voice doesn't answer, but your badge glows. The second lantern shines, and the door closes, just like that. You look around. Everything's the same, except the moss smells faintly of ink now. You walk on. Later that night, you find yourself outside the bakery. The baker's son waves at you. His hands are covered in flour and curiosity. "Did you see the ghost?" he asks. You blink. "Which one?" "The one that waves at night from inside your lantern." You stare at him. He shrugs and runs off. You look down. The second lantern glows faintly. Inside, you swear. For just a second, you see a tiny silhouette. It waves. You don't scream. You wave back. It vanishes. You keep walking. The final stretch of your new route loops near the fields. Tall grass, fireflies, the occasional startled owl. It's peaceful. Meditative. Then you trip, because of course you do. You land face first in a ditch full of friendly thistles and judgmental frogs. You groan. A frog hops onto your badge. Your second lantern rolls out of your bag and lands upright, glowing. The regular lantern lands beside it, snuffing out momentarily, then reigniting itself with mild grumpiness. You sit up, brushing mud and metaphor off your tunic. The two lanterns flicker at each other, like they're communicating. The second lantern pulses once. The regular one responds with a small flare. They glow together for a moment, and then your badge emits a ding. You look down. Inscribed on it now are 2 new lines of script. They weren't there before. They read, "Light begets light. The bearer does not walk alone." You feel something tighten in your chest. Not fear, not even awe, just belonging. You clip the badge back in place. You stand. You gather both lanterns. And you walk. You do not know where the door leads. You do not know what the gate wants. You only know that you were chosen. Not because you're special, but because you kept walking, because you held the light when others looked away. And maybe, just maybe, that's enough. Tonight begins like most nights, with socks that don't match, a questionable sandwich, and 2 lanterns that behave like roommates with very different social lives. You're halfway through, strapping on your boots when you hear it, knocking, not on your door, on your window. That's not normal. You shuffle over, expecting a moth, a mistaken pigeon, or Bart on stilts. What you see, instead, is a face. More specifically, the upper half of a face floating just outside the glass, wearing glasses far too modern for this timeline. You open the window slowly. The floating face tilts and says, "Oh, good, you're awake." "I wasn't," you reply. The face grins. "Even better. Let's go." Before you can protest, it drops out of view. You grab your lanterns. Because of course you do. Outside, there's no floating face. Just a woman leaning casually against your house, like she's always been part of the architecture. "Name's Mel," she says. "I'm with logistics." "Logistics of what?" She pulls out a scroll that unrolls itself with a whoosh and hovers mid-air. You squint at the top. Department of Lantern Routing and Interpersonal Symbolism. Secondary Axis Division. You blink. "That's not real." "It is now," Mel chirps. "You've been selected for pairing." "Pairing?" She nods. "Lantern bearer relations. Cohesive night walking units. Dual flame companionship. It's all very experimental." You look around. "With who?" She raises a hand. From the shadows emerges Bart, holding a picnic basket, wearing a scarf. He looks deeply, almost professionally awkward. "No," you say. "Yes," Mel says. "Hard pass," you say. "It's on the scroll," she replies, pointing at the glowing text that now reads, "Pairing activated. Flamebearer. 17A. Plus. Flamebearer. 9. C. Bart. Effective immediately." You exhale loudly enough to shift nearby leaves. Bart speaks. "Look, I'm not thrilled either. I was promised tea." Mel pats you both on the shoulders. "Now off you go. Bond. Merge auras. Resist the creeping fog of eternal dusk. You know, team building." She vanishes in a puff of purple confetti and logistical indifference. You and Bart stand there in silence. Finally, he says, "So, you want to lead?" You do. You walk the northern rim of the village together, like two badly written rival detectives. Bart hums. You don't. At some point, he says, "You know, people say lantern bearers are natural matchmakers." You stop. "No, they don't. They do," he insists. "We guide lovers through the night, help people find each other, light the way to clandestine rendezvous." You narrow your eyes. "You accidentally led 3 people into the same courtyard last week." He shrugs. "They bonded over the betrayal. I count that as matchmaking." You groan. He continues. "Back in the old days, it was tradition for bearers to carry small satchels of rose petals, just in case someone proposed under their light. That's not real. Historians still argue," he says smugly. Around the halfway mark, your lantern hums. So does Bart's. And then, a third glow. Ahead of you, near the fountain, a soft pinkish flame hovers mid-air, not attached to anything, just floating, pulsing, waiting. You both freeze. You whisper, "That's not supposed to happen." Bart whispers, "Maybe it's in love with us." You roll your eyes so hard your badge vibrates. You approach the light. It flickers, then shifts, turning green, then orange, then a deep plum color that smells like regret and bubblegum. Your second lantern pulses in response. Bart's lantern flares briefly, then spits out a tiny spark. The floating flame splits, not in half, in fourths. Each piece darts off in a different direction. One heads east, one west. One disappears straight upward. The last one burrows into the ground, like it forgot it had social obligations. Bart whistles. That seems significant. You feel it in your chest. A pull, a choice, a question you don't fully understand. Then, your badge pings. Words appear on it. The way diverges. Choose kindly. You look at Bart. He sighs. "East or west?" "West," you say. He nods. "Good. East smells like radishes." You don't ask. As you walk west, the path shifts. The air thickens like soup made of secrets. You pass houses you don't remember, doors that weren't there yesterday, a garden full of clocks, and then a clearing. In it, a bench. On the bench, a person. They're reading a book that glows faintly. When they look up, their eyes reflect your own, not metaphorically, literally. They nod. You nod back. The second lantern glows. So does the regular one. Bart sneezes. The figure smiles, shuts the book, and vanishes. You stare at the bench. The book is still there. You pick it up. On the cover, Guide to Carrying What Cannot Be Dropped. Inside, blank pages, except one. It reads, Keep walking. Someone needs your light tonight. You tuck the book into your bag. Bart says nothing. For once, that feels like progress. You and Bart don't talk much on the way back. The book sits heavy in your bag, though it weighs less than a loaf of bread, and possibly slightly more than a moral dilemma. Your badge remains quiet. The lanterns behave, though yours glows faintly every time you think about that bench, or that face, or the way it looked exactly like yours, but better rested. By the time you return to the main square, it's near midnight. A soft mist hugs the cobblestones. A dog barks twice in the distance and then mutters an apology. Bart clears his throat. I once heard that lantern bearers used to be able to see people's thoughts. Reflections, they called them. You glance at him. And how did that work? They'd shine the light at someone's feet, he says. And if the shadow moved before the person did, well, that was a sign. A sign of what? He shrugs. Guilt. Grief. Too much soup. Nobody was really sure, but it made for excellent gossip. You hum noncommittally. He adds, I tried it once. Shone my light on the mayor during the harvest dance. His shadow tried to leave. Straight out the door. I think it moonlighted as a goat. You smile in spite of yourself. Half an hour later, you are alone again. Bart peels off towards the bakery. Something about borrowing yeast and destiny. You continue along the west road. Your regular lantern burns steady. The second one has dimmed to the softest of glows, like a memory trying not to be noticed. Then a noise, a clink, a scrape, the faint sound of a curtain being drawn in a place where there are no windows. You freeze. Your badge hums once. You step carefully forward, and there, crouched behind the well, is someone or something with a lantern of its own. You say gently, hello? The figure turns. It's not a person. Not quite. It's humanoid in the way a scarecrow is, limbs just slightly too long, posture a little too hopeful. Its face is featureless. Its lantern is pure silver, flame white blue, and absolutely silent. It doesn't move. You don't either. Then it raises one arm, slowly, respectfully. You raise yours. A soft pulse of light passes between you. For a moment, you see something. A desert. A sky with two moons. A lantern glowing on a mountaintop. A child asleep in its glow. Then, nothing. The figure bows and vanishes. You look down. Your second lantern is glowing now. Inside it briefly, a shape swirls. It's your street, but covered in sand and stars. You close your eyes, breathe. Okay, you whisper to no one. So now there are multiverse lantern bearers. Back in your shack, you sit by the window. Both lanterns rest beside you. Your badge is quiet, warm. You open the little book again. The page has changed. Now it says, Tonight you saw what could have been, what is still possible, what always was. You close it. You're tired. Not just sleepy tired, lantern bearer tired. The kind of tired that makes you question how many dimensions you're contractually obligated to walk through. You lie down. And just before you drift off, you hear it, not outside, not from the lantern, but from somewhere deep in your chest. A tiny voice that says, We see you. You whisper back, I see me too. Then sleep takes you, not all at once, but gently. like a light going dim, not out, just resting. You wake up just before dawn, which is alarming for several reasons. First, you don't remember setting an alarm. Second, your badge is glowing faintly like it has opinions. And third, your second lantern is levitating, not high, just an inch or two off the table. It's humming a soft, melodic tone that sounds suspiciously like the first few notes of a lullaby, sung by someone who has definitely seen the end of the world. You sit up. The lantern gently settles itself back down. Okay, you whisper. No sudden dimension hopping before breakfast. You stretch, crack your knees, like bubble wrap for pessimists, and shuffle to the door. Outside, the street is different. Not spooky different. More like a child has been here with chalk and imagination different. Someone, or something, has drawn symbols all over the cobblestones. Circles, stars, waves, what might be a duck or a highly ambitious comma. At the center of the design, a glowing pebble. You approach. Your lanterns don't flare. That's both comforting and concerning. The pebble hums. You pick it up. It's warm. Then you hear footsteps behind you. You turn slowly. It's not Bart. It's not Martha. It's not even Mel. It's a girl, maybe 10 years old, wearing a tunic 2 sizes too big and a look like she knows exactly what your future smells like. You found it, she says. You nod. Now it'll follow you, she adds, as if that's good news. Is that okay? She shrugs. It's a guide stone. It goes where the lantern wills it. You glance at your lantern. It pulses once. The girl gives you a crooked smile and vanishes. Just like that. You look down. The pebble has nestled into your pocket. Of course it has. Later that day, you stop by Martha's. She's pouring wax over a mold shaped like a beet. Without looking up, she says, "Your energy's weird today." You explain about the symbols, the girl, the pebble. She hums. They're testing you. Who's they? She shrugs. Them. That's not helpful. She stabs a wick into the beet mold. Historians still argue whether guide stones are sentient, prophetic, or just mildly radioactive. But one thing's certain, they don't just follow anyone. You tap your pocket. The pebble hums faintly. Should I be worried? You ask. Yes, she says cheerfully, but not in a bad way. Your new route leads south tonight, past the old well, past the scarecrow that moves just a little too much, into the fog. You walk steadily, the regular lantern casting its orange glow, the second lantern keeping pace with a faint blue shimmer. At the edge of the fields, the fog parts. And there, sitting on a stump, is a man. He's wearing robes too long for his legs and a hat made of string. You recognize him from the scroll illustrations. This is Jonor the Luminous, a legendary lantern bearer from 100 years ago, possibly fictional, known for carrying 3 lanterns and 1 grudge. Sit, he says. You do. He peers at your lanterns. 2 lights, he murmurs. 1 awake, 1 waiting. You nod. Have they spoken yet? He asks. You blink. The lanterns? He chuckles. No, the light. You open your mouth. He raises a hand. Don't answer. You'll know when you know. He offers you a slice of cheese. You accept. It's oddly warm and smells like regret. He adds, You've been walking well. Not too proud. Not too lost. Thanks, you say. He nods solemnly. Soon you'll have to leave the map. What map? He smiles. Exactly. You blink. He's gone. Only the cheese remains. It turns into a pine cone. You pocket it. That night, the pebble glows bright for the first time. It hums a low note, one that matches your heartbeat. You hold it in your palm. The second lantern glows, and the pebble dissolves. Not like a rock, like a thought. The energy slips into your badge. A new line appears. When the stone chooses light, the bearer chooses truth. You sit by the window again. The stars look clearer tonight. Or maybe you're just beginning to understand what they're trying to say. You hold the lantern close and whisper, I'm listening. This morning, you wake up to rain tapping on the roof in Morse code. Not literal Morse code. You're not that paranoid yet. But it definitely spells something ominous in the universal language of moist inconvenience. You sit up, stretch, and glance at your lanterns. The regular one is dimmed, lazy. Understandable. It was up late casting long shadows over existential dilemmas. The second lantern, though, is glowing steadily, not urgent, just awake before you, as always. You reach for your tunic and find a small envelope tucked into the sleeve. No address, no wax seal, just a hand scrawled word. Tonight. Inside is a single phrase, barely legible. Follow where the rain pools. No signature. Not even a smug drawing of Bart. You groan and roll out of bed. Another night. Another mysterious directive, wrapped in implied responsibility. By dusk, the rain has stopped, leaving the streets shining with puddles and possibilities. You're already drenched from slipping in, three of them, and mildly embarrassed by your accidental splash duel with a goose. Still, you walk, because that's what you do now. The puddles reflect light oddly tonight. Not just shimmer, but bend. As if the water remembers things the air has forgotten. Your regular lantern flickers politely. The second lantern glows slightly brighter each time your boots hit a puddle that feels significant. You've started rating puddles on a scale, 1 for May, 10 for possible temporal vortex. And then you see it, a large puddle, circular, still, perfectly centered at the crossroads. Around it, the cobblestones are etched with familiar symbols. You don't remember drawing them, but they are yours. You feel your badge hum. You kneel beside the puddle and stare in. You see your face, but this time, your reflection speaks. Are you ready? You don't respond. The reflection smiles. Good. That's the right answer. And then it ripples and shows you someone else, a girl, lantern in hand, standing in a village you don't recognize. Wearing your badge, you whisper, What? The reflection nods toward your chest. You look down. Your badge now glows with two interlocking circles. You run to Martha's. You barge in, soaked, wild-eyed, glowing faintly. She barely glances up from dunking candles in a vat of what appears to be marmalade. You met her, she says. You blink. Who? The next. You sit. Next what? Martha stirs the vat. Next bearer or previous, depending on how time's feeling. You stare. She continues. You didn't think this job was linear, did you? You blink twice slowly. She sighs. There's always a line of us, she explains. Lanterns don't just get made, they get handed. And sometimes they reach forward before they let go of behind. You mutter, That's not how grammar works. That's not how time works, she shoots back. You nod slowly. So what now, you ask. Now, she says. You listen. To what? She taps your badge. It hums. And then you hear it. Not with your ears. In your memory, voices. Laughter. Shouts across cobbled streets. A whispered lullaby in a storm. All echoing through your badge like it's the smallest library in the world. These are the memories of other bearers, other lives, other walks. You breathe carefully. Your second lantern flickers, warm. You look at Martha. What am I supposed to do with this? She smiles. You carry it. That night, as you resume your walk, something feels different. Not heavier, not lighter, just fuller. Every flicker of your lantern reminds you that someone walked this path before you, and someone will walk it after. You are part of the flame, a link, a page in a very stubborn book. You pass the baker's shop, closed. You pass the statue of the founder, slightly askew after that incident with the mime and the horse. You pass the old bench, and someone is sitting there. The girl from the puddle. You approach. She looks up. "You're the one before me," she says. You nod. "And you're the one after." She nods. You both sit in silence. Then together you say, "It's not about the light." You both smile. "It never was. It's about the walking, the holding, the quiet glow in the middle of too much dark." You hand her the book. She gives you a pebble. She stands. You nod. She vanishes. You sit for a while longer, just watching the lanterns dance. The morning after meeting the next is weird in a way you can't describe. It's like your bones are slightly out of order. Not painful, just alphabetized differently. You sip tea made from something Martha labeled thought leaves and watch the regular lantern spin gently on its hook. The second one refuses to stop glowing. You've tried hiding it under a pillow in a sock, even behind your own back. It just shines harder, as if to say, "Nice try." Emotional denial isn't darkness proof. Your badge now pulses every hour, exactly on the half hour, like a celestial egg timer you didn't ask for. Every time it pings, it whispers a different word in your head. So far, remember, mend, accept, and butter. You're pretty sure that last one was an accident. You get dressed, you pick up the lanterns, you walk. Today's route takes you somewhere new, past the vegetable market, where carrots stare too hard, past the blacksmith's place, who insists metal can feel shame, and through a narrow alley known only as the sigh. The sigh is named for the noise people make when they realize it's longer than expected and uphill both ways. Tonight, it breathes as you enter. The cobblestones here are mismatched. Old Roman bricks, bits of shipwreck, pieces of floorboards from a theater that was haunted by reviews. And midway down, there's a door. You've seen it before. The freestanding one, only now it's open. Inside there's a room, one room, lit by 1,000 lanterns, each on a shelf, glowing softly in different hues. Blue, gold, violet, red, silver, like starlight. It smells like cedarwood and old decisions. Your badge hums. A plaque on the wall reads, "Archives of the Flame." You step inside. Each lantern here is labeled. Some names you recognize. Mel's is square and smells faintly of peppermints. Jonor the Luminous has 3 shelves and a fire hazard warning. Martha's glows like honey and judgment. And then, on the very end, a blank shelf. Your badge pings. Your second lantern glows. The flame inside flickers, splits, and a tiny spark floats upward, hovering just above the shelf. A new plaque etches itself beside it. Bearer 12C, Seam Walker, Listener. Favorite color, inconsistent. You blink. Is that me? A voice behind you says, "It better be. I already made the frame." It's Mel, wearing goggles, carrying what looks like a lantern polishing kit and a bag of regrets in Tupperware. She smiles. "Welcome to the long game." You nod slowly. She gestures toward the shelves. Each lantern here holds a memory, a truth, or a terrible dance move someone committed during a lightning storm. You raise an eyebrow. She shrugs. Lanterns, remember what people forget. That's why they flicker before a storm. They know what's coming, what came before, what shouldn't come back. You stare at the tiny spark of your lantern. It pulses. Mel pats your shoulder. "You're doing fine," she says. "Better than some, worse than most, perfectly average in the ways that matter." You laugh, and it echoes through the shelves like a warm breeze. That night, you dream of light. Not fire, not glare. Just the soft kind. The kind that finds a lost key. The kind that fits in your palm. The kind that tells someone they're not alone. You see paths. Infinite. Tangled. Straight. All walked by people holding lanterns. You see a forest lit by laughter, a mountain lit by memory, a sea lit by grief, and in the middle always a single step. You wake up holding your badge. It's warm, and it smells like possibility. As you walk the next evening, something feels easier, not less heavy, just more balanced. You nod to strangers. The lanterns glow before they need to. You start to notice how the shadows behave, shy, respectful, sometimes even dancing. You pause in front of the old statue. Someone's placed flowers at its base. Your badge hums. You hear, keep them walking. You nod because you know now that's the job. Not the flame, not the fame, just the walking, just the keeping, just the choosing to show up when it's cold and foggy and someone out there might be hoping for light. You carry that hope in both hands. Tonight is clear, the kind of sky that makes poets sigh and astronomers argue. Stars spill overhead like someone dropped a basket of glitter across velvet. You've always liked clear nights, easier to see where not to step, easier to imagine you're the only person in the world holding back the dark, one flickering pool of light at a time. You set off with your two lanterns, one steady and familiar, the other still humming with mysterious responsibility. Your badge taps a soft rhythm on your chest. Tonight, it pings a new word into your brain. Carry. You nod, out loud, to no one. At the edge of town, a figure waves at you from the road. You squint. It's Bart, wearing a hooded cloak, holding a loaf of bread like a sacred artifact. You sigh. Do I want to ask? He nods. You do. This bread is cursed. You blink. He holds it up. The baker swears it was baked during a thunderstorm by accident. When someone bit into it, they saw their ex's dreams. You stare. Bart adds, I bit it. I saw myself, but like from behind, just standing, watching me. It winked. You pinch the bridge of your nose. Do you want me to light it on fire? You ask. Bart shakes his head. No, I'm giving it to the statue. You watch him solemnly walk to the town's founder, statue, and place the loaf gently at its feet. The statue shifts slightly, just a creak, just enough to make you rethink everything. Bart returns satisfied. Now we wait. For what? For it to either vanish or start speaking in riddles. You gesture vaguely. I'm walking the southeast road tonight. He shrugs. I'll join. The southeast road is quieter than usual. Trees lean inward, whispering to each other in languages you can't parse, but deeply suspect involve mild gossip. As you walk, you come upon a circle of stones. You've passed it 100 times, but tonight one stone is glowing. The second lantern pulses. You step into the circle. Your badge hums a new tone, lower, deeper. Bart whispers, I don't like this. You whisper, that's fair. The stones tremble, and then you're no longer standing on dirt. You're standing on wood, smooth, warm, glowing faintly from below. A voice echoes around you. Not loud, not male or female, just true. Bearer of flame, carrier of weight, walker of seams. Are you ready? You glance at Bart. He's slowly backing away. You whisper, ready for what? To carry. Your lanterns rise out of your hands, hovering between you. They spin once, then merge. Not forever. Just enough to show you something. The flame inside dances. You see a woman holding a lantern, walking into a storm. You see a child, crying in the dark, holding out a hand. You see yourself walking when no one asked you to, holding light for strangers, holding silence when it would have been easier to shout. You see the weight and the choice, and the fact that you could put it down at any time but haven't. You whisper, yes. The stones settle. The ground returns. Bart stumbles slightly. The lanterns float back to your hands, heavier now, but only because you know them better. Your badge glows softly. On it, new words appear. The weight is not yours alone. On the walk back, Bart is quiet. Finally, he says, "You're different now." You nod. "So are you. You gave haunted bread to a statue." He nods solemnly. "We've both grown." You smile. Not because it's funny, but because it's true. That night, you place both lanterns on your windowsill. They shine quietly, together, not in competition, just companions. Your badge rests on your chest. You lie down, and as your eyes close, you feel it again. Not the burden, the choice to carry, to keep walking, and maybe someday to hand it off. But not yet, not tonight. Tonight you rest. Tomorrow you walk again. The next morning brings fog, not the poetic, wistful kind. No, this is the clingy, stubborn fog, the kind that sticks to your cloak like a wet dog with abandonment issues. It turns your front porch into a guessing game and your teacup into a mysterious puddle. Your regular lantern sputters briefly before giving a reluctant glow. The second one hums with purpose, as if it's been waiting for this exact moment to finally reveal its full personality. Your badge pings. This time the word is speak. You raise an eyebrow. "I do enough of that already," you mutter. Your badge disagrees by vibrating like an enthusiastic librarian. You sigh and step outside. In the square, Martha is feeding the fog, not intentionally, but the hot wax vapors from her latest batch of emotionally complex candles are wafting out into the mist and making it smell like lavender, fear, and unpaid taxes. She waves. "You're late." "For what?" "The meeting." You blink. "What meeting?" She throws a roll of parchment at your chest. It unfolds mid-air and gently slaps your face. It reads, "Council of Lantern Bearers. Emergency Gathering. Location, the Forgetting Tree. Agenda, misrelated anomalies and existential flame. Wobble." You squint. "What's a forgetting tree?" Bart pops out of a haystack holding a lemon tart. "Oh, you'll know it when you can't remember why you're there." You really should stop asking questions. You follow a trail of stones through the fog. The lanterns help, glowing brighter when you drift too far off course, dimming when you're on the right path. The second one starts to hum louder. Eventually you find it, the forgetting tree. It looks ordinary. A knobbly old thing with twisted branches and leaves like scribbled notes. But standing near it feels like you left your name in the other room. Around it are 7 others, lantern bearers. Some you recognize from scrolls, others from Sideways Dreams. One of them is the girl, younger than you, sharper around the edges. Another is ancient and might actually be a moth in disguise. Mel is there too, eating jam from a teacup. The one who seems in charge steps forward. Their voice sounds like 2 people trying to agree on a song. "Tonight," they say, "the seam is thinning." You blink. "The seam?" They nod. Between places. Between selves. Between what we think and what remembers us. You do not like how much that makes sense. Your second lantern glows softly. The leader continues. "You have walked well, carried gently, but the fog is not weather. It's memory." Martha chimes in. "It's not just our village. Others are forgetting who lights the way." The ancient one mutters, "They've stopped listening." You whisper, "What can I do?" The leader looks straight at you. "Speak." Your badge burns, not painfully, but with pressure. You must remind them, show them. Remind them of what? That the dark is real, but so is the one who carries the light. You're sent home with a task, and an apple that whispers bedtime stories. You ignore the apple. That night you walk the town, not just the streets, but the thresholds. You knock on doors. You leave a glow on window panes. You let your lanterns shine not just on the path, but into people's homes, their kitchens, their dreams. You pause at the well and speak softly, not with your mouth, but your presence. You remember every lantern bearer who came before, and everyone still to come. The fog retreats slowly, not because it's defeated, but because it's been seen. You didn't banish it, you acknowledged it, and somehow that's enough. Back at home, your badge is quiet. The second lantern dims, content. The regular one burns gently, faithfully. You sit. You rest your hands on your lap. And this time you speak. To anyone listening, I see you. Keep walking. I'll keep the flame. You awaken to the sound of clinking glass. Not a crash. Not even a dramatic shatter. Just the soft, polite sound of something delicate deciding to shift its priorities on your shelf. You sit up slowly. Your second lantern is floating again. Your regular lantern flickers indignantly from its spot, still obeying gravity, like it signed a contract. You reach out. The second lantern gently lowers itself into your hands. And then, for the first time, it speaks, not aloud. Inside your chest, a voice like wind over embers. You are almost ready. You blink. Ready for what? The lantern doesn't answer, because it doesn't have to. You already know. There's something called the final loop. It's not taught, it's whispered. They say every lantern bearer walks it once. Not a real path, not a street or a route, but a walk through everywhere you've been. Tonight, your badge glows brighter than ever. It pulses like a heartbeat in a hurry. A soft shimmer surrounds both lanterns. You step outside, and the cobblestones rearrange themselves. No, really, the street outside your door is no longer Main Street. It's a memory. From 3 years ago, you remember tripping over that broken step and blaming the moon. You walk forward. The bakery appears as it was the first night you ever lit a lantern. The scent of overproofed dough. The window still cracked from Bart's yeast expansion incident. You walk by, smiling, turn left, and there's the statue of the founder, back before pigeons claimed it as sovereign territory. You remember leaving your first lantern offering here. It was a muffin. It melted. You walk on, past the courtyard where you first saw the girl, past the alley where Mel taught you how to silence an argumentative lantern. You clap at it, apparently. Each step brings you somewhere familiar and yet different. These aren't just places, they're moments. At the edge of the village, the road turns into fog. You recognize this fog now. It's not emptiness, it's choice. You step forward, both lanterns glowing steadily now. One gold, one blue-white. Your badge hums like it's reciting every name you've ever learned. And there, in the middle of the mist, a mirror, not large, just enough. You look in and see you, but not just you. You with the first lantern. You after your first lost night. You when you almost quit. You when you didn't. And behind you, all the others. 100 bearers, 1,000. Some in cloaks, some barefoot, some carrying 3 lanterns, some carrying only hope. You whisper, I don't know if I'm enough. The mirror doesn't respond, but your reflection nods and walks forward into you. There's a lightness in your chest now, not relief, more like a kind of understanding that doesn't need to be explained. You keep walking. You return to the square. Only this time, it's not empty. The entire village is there, each person holding a small candle. Martha, Bart, Mel, the baker's son, even the goat. They say nothing. They just hold the light. And for the first time, you realize you've been holding it for them. But now, they're holding it with you. The leader of the council steps forward. They hold up their hand. In it, a key, simple, worn, glowing faintly. They press it into your palm. You know what this is, they say. And you do. Not a key to a door. A key to the choice. To keep walking. To someday leave the lantern behind. So another can pick it up. But not tonight. Tonight, you're still walking. You lift both lanterns. And the whole town breathes in. The light spreads, not brighter. Just wider. like warmth finding every corner of a very old room, and you walk through them, with them, for them. You begin walking before the stars fade. No badge ping, no whispered word, no flaming goat specters or multidimensional librarians. Just you, the two lanterns, and the quiet confidence that comes when someone finally stops looking for the road and realizes they are the road. You head west, then south, then in a direction only described by ancient maps as kind of sideways. Each step feels easier now, not because the road is smooth, but because you've stopped expecting it to be. Your lanterns swing beside you, balanced, trusted, companions rather than tools. They no longer pulse for warnings or guidance. Tonight, they glow for joy. The joy of motion, the joy of carrying light, even when no one else is watching. Especially then, halfway up the hill, a familiar voice calls out. It's Bart, wearing a tunic made of socks and carrying a wagon full of what appear to be decorative turnips. Thought you might need backup, he says cheerfully. You raise an eyebrow. For, he shrugs, moral support, emergency snacks, possibly ceremonial humming. You sigh. Hop in then. He grins and jogs beside you, dragging the squeaky wagon up the incline. Did you know, he says between wheezes, that some ancient texts say lantern bearers used to be dream cartographers? You glance over. Mapping the unconscious minds of the villagers, he continues, turning memories into trails, fears into footpaths. Apparently, some people dreamed in Latin, poorly. You don't say anything, because now you remember. A scrap of scroll, an old entry in the archives, a mention of the Dreamwalkers. And suddenly, your badge hums with the softest possible yes. At the top of the hill, the wind changes. It's subtle, but you feel it. A current of something just beyond what the senses can define. Not danger, more like an invitation. There's a circle of standing stones here, just like the ones from the final loop. But these stones are singing, low, melodic, a tune older than your bones. You step into the circle. The second lantern rises from your hand. It floats to the center and splits, not in halves, in layers, each one orbiting the next like a mechanical star. Inside, a single flickering core. Your badge pulses. You speak quietly. I see you. The flame flares, not outward, inward, and 1,000 voices echo back. We see you too. The wind shifts again, and from behind the stones, they come. The ones who walked before, not ghosts, not illusions, bearers, a parade of light. One carries a lantern made from sea glass. One rides a wolf. One is a child. One is older than mountains. They don't speak, but they walk beside you. Not ahead, not behind, beside. You feel your breath hitch. Your badge vibrates like a heartbeat synced to a song you've only just begun to learn. The procession begins. You lead down the hill, into the village, into the night. As you pass through the streets, candles flicker in every window. Doors open, heads bow, not in reverence, but recognition. This is no longer about duty. This is legacy. You return to the square. The others gather there, wordless. Mel, Martha, the girl, the ancient one. Even the founder's statue shifts slightly to face the light. You step into the center. The lanterns float above your head, and you raise your hand. The flame responds. A final shape emerges. A circle. Unbroken, you step back. Let it hang in the air, and feel peace, because you understand now. The lantern is never the point. It's the walking, the carrying, the quiet promise you make every time you lift the light and step into the dark, not knowing what comes next, but choosing to go anyway. It begins with silence, the kind of deep, velvet silence that stretches itself across rooftops and settles into the corners of cupboards. A silence that doesn't need to be kept, because it's already holding you. You stand in the square, alone and not alone. The lanterns hover by your shoulders, no longer flickering or humming or pulsing, just present, still. You reach up, gently guiding them down. Your fingers close around their handles, one last time for the night. Your badge gives a final soft pulse, like a sigh of contentment. You did the walk, you kept the light, you held the seam, and now it's time to rest. You take the long way home. Past the statue, someone has put a crown of daisies on its head again. Past the bakery, the scent of early dough is already rising. Past Bart's wagon, now overturned, because of course it is, with turnips arranged in what may be a zodiac pattern. The streets are quiet. The shadows no longer lurch or hide. They walk beside you, gently, like sleepy cats returning to the window. You pause at the doorstep of your little shack. Look up. The stars look back. One of them winks. You nod. Fair enough. Inside, everything waits where you left it. The teacup, the half-finished note, the boots with exactly one rock inside each, because even footwear has secrets. You place the lanterns on the sill. They glow, but not for you now. For someone else. A child who woke from a bad dream. A baker who never stops doubting. A goat who once glimpsed eternity through a cracked bucket. You sit, you breathe, and as you do, the light shifts, softens, stretches out like a blanket. The world grows slower, rounder, warmer, and sleep begins to pull at your shoulders. You lie down, not because you're tired, but because you deserve to. The flame doesn't fade. It folds, tucks itself into your chest like a lullaby. The bed creaks. The badge stops humming. The lanterns glow on. Outside, the wind carries no warnings, only peace. And now, as your breath grows slower, your eyes heavier, know this. You are not alone. You never were, and you never will be. There are others, carrying their own lights, walking their own roads. And some of them might just be dreaming of you now. So sleep, rest. Let go of the road for tonight. The seam holds, the light remains. And you are safe, carried, remembered, loved. The night grows quiet now. Even the lanterns seem to dim themselves, not out of exhaustion, but courtesy, respect for the quiet blooming inside you. You can feel the weight of your body soften into the bed, the way a candle gently leans into its last glow. No more roads tonight. No more puzzles or pockets with messages. Just breath. In and out. If your mind wanders, that's okay. Let it. Let it drift like mist over the cobblestones, like a memory unspooling gently into nothing. There's no need to chase it. There's no need to hold on. You've done enough. The world, in all its strangeness and light, will still be there tomorrow. The flame will wait. You are not falling asleep alone tonight. You are falling asleep in the company of every soul who has ever carried a light through the dark. They are beside you, in the soft breath of wind at your window, in the hush between heartbeats. So rest. Let the rhythm of your breath join the rhythm of the night. You've walked far. You've carried well. And now, finally, it's time to sleep. Just sleep. Let go. Let go. You are safe. You are held. You are home.